Welcome back to another season, another episode. This is the most exciting part of the fantasy season. Hopes are high, vibes are high, expectations are high. Nobody's really done poorly yet, whether that be fantasy players, whether that be actual players. We're all in a good mood here. And I think that means it's a perfect time to welcome a new host of ours. As you can see, not just me, not just Toady, in the upper right hand corner, one of the corners, you will see not only our logo. I don't know that that's a great point, but you will also see our third host, Jay Kinney, who might be frozen, to be honest.
Kinney could be frozen.
I'm here.
Or he's deep in thought.
Which is a good start. Yeah, he's dead frozen from a visual standpoint.
Right.
Great start.
We're off hot. I mean, welcome, Kenny. Ventriloquist, if I've ever seen one, opening act. His lips have not moved, but his words have been prolific.
Oh, no. You guys
right out the gate.
Though, right?
No, we can hear you. I honestly think that it's better if we just keep you like this for the rest of the year. And then Cody just left. So we are off to a steaming hot start. Steaming hot start. I was actually going to upload a picture of Kenny because maybe contrary to
popular belief.
Yeah, and what you could see through the screen, he's actually pretty ripped. He's the representative here of having a six-pack. And
not the kind of six-pack Kondo and I have, but
yeah, from time to time enjoy. Mm-hmm. But one that year-round, Kenny is flexing. So
exactly.
I think
it's Kenny. If he tries to refresh, that might work.
Maybe.
Perhaps. I honestly like it as is. But
yeah, I mean, the black screen definitely leads to more suspense on what Kenny actually looks like. It was a blurry photo of him, blurry jacked photo of Kenny. Now it's just a blank screen of Kenny.
I see him on the bottom and he's moving. Everything looks fine. I think it would be excellent if he just got on here and then it went right back to the same still image that we had last time. We'll see. The suspense is killing me. Okay, we got movement.
Okay. We got movement. All right.
We got movement.
I also have my ceiling fan here, so
yeah, that's probably the reason that this all started to begin with.
Right.
The last thing I have to say before we get into everything, I think one thing that's great about Kenny coming on is that it's proof that you can do anything you set your mind to, that you can start as one of the 4. I might be underselling here. Maybe 5 fans of this show. Work your way up, grind, hit the fantasy books, start practicing fantasy Buddhism, whatever it takes.
Right. Go above and beyond.
To eventually get enough of a reputation to join this show. So, welcome, Kenny.
Thank you. Went from the comments to stardom.
Yep.
Just like that.
In 1 year. It just shows what you can achieve when you
jump
your mind to something. Today, we are going to talk about the AFC East.
Nailed it.
Some people call it the AFC least. I don't know that many people do. More so the NFC. But AFC East, we have some interesting teams. The Pats, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills. Bills trying to redeem themselves after an interesting year last year. I would say probably the favorites in the AFC East, probably the favorites in the AFC. So,
the Bills?
I would say so.
The favorites in all the AFC? I mean, Chiefs would be my close second, if not.
I'm going to say Chargers there. Bills, Chargers.
Bills, Chargers? Yeah. Chargers are a good team. I like them too.
Let's start off with some superlatives. We want to hit on some of the players that kind of stand out from the crowd here. Kind of if they were at your high school, if you knew them, you know what the superlatives are. You get like the best looking, best smile, and maybe even a prom king, which is our first superlative. We don't really have set definitions for these, so I'm interested to see where you guys go here. But whoever wants to kick it off can kick it off. I can get started if we need.
I was gonna have Kenny go first since it's his first show on, his first time. He should be the one to give the first take of the 2022 fantasy football season.
I love that idea.
I think so.
So prom king is in players or teams?
Players. That's a good
Players.
question.
That was a good question.
As we said, we
Yeah.
don't have any
Well,
organizing for
Well, because we talked on a division basis, now we're talking on a player basis. I just want to make sure we're on the
Players.
same.
Within the division. Fantasy
Yep.
players within the division. Who is your fantasy prom king for the upcoming season in the AFC East?
I mean, we got a couple. We got a couple prompts that this guy could go in. I think prom king is unanimous. Zach Wilson.
It's fair. On many levels, I think it works. Can you?
I love
Is
it.
there an age limit on the woman that you can bring to prom? Is the conversation there?
I mean, some districts do have a 21-year cap just because if they're above 21, they could legally drink with the teachers in the back. So they try to keep teachers and subordinates separate.
I was more under the impression of a 21-year age difference. That's the max, which would fit Zach Wilson's criteria to a Q.
Pretty easily, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, that'd be that'd be a young mother.
Is what it is. We don't discriminate on moms.
Yeah, no discrimination.
No.
What do you think about Zach Wilson's actual like fantasy outlook? I know there's a lot of hype. We're going to talk more about the Jets wide receivers in a bit, but there is hype with this offense. There is hype with, I think, the expectation here of people saying that they assembled a good roster. What are your thoughts for, one, how they're going to perform as a whole as an offense, and then two, how Zach Wilson is going to play into that? Is he like, I don't think anybody's saying that he's going to be a top of the line quarterback in fantasy, but are you willing to probably not even draft him, but like keep an eye on him to the point where he can be a fantasy reliable streamer at some point?
Yeah, I think definitely when once bye weeks start to hit, just watch the matchups, kind of see how things play out these first couple weeks of the season, and then I think Zach Wilson and the Jets will keep every game interesting. I really don't think any game will be a blowout. Easy to say at the start of the season with everyone healthy and the O-line strong. They bulked up at the running back position. Re-signed all their wide receivers, drafted Garrett Wilson. So they picked up CJ Uzama and Tyler Conklin, Cody's main man.
The big TC baby.
So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do divisional play wise. It's going to be tough. I mean, every other team in the division did the same thing as the Jets. I think every team in the division had a good draft and just re-signed their players. Made trades where they had to be made. So I think you get all these young teams, all they want to do is just go out there and compete. So I think it's Zach Wilson said it best. They're a bunch of dogs. So
meow.
He kind of sets the tone from the top.
Beautiful.
But from a fantasy perspective, Zach Wilson, probably a flyer come bye weeks, I would think. But you're not drafting him out the gate, especially if you're in a 12-man league.
Yeah, that offense is definitely interesting this year, and we'll get more into that as we go along too. Cody, who is your prom king?
My prom king was Josh Allen. I mean, I think the Bills are one of the two favorites to make it out of the AFC. this year, and quarterback is one of, if not the most important positions on the field. And so you got to take the top team, the top guy on the team, which would be Josh Allen, prom king. I mean, he's going to, you want the prom king to be a guy who's going to be cool under pressure, get the lady, get the ring, get the whole 9 yards. Josh Allen's that guy.
Maybe even 10.
10 yards, maybe 10 yards every 2 times. 2 throws, no big deal. I like it. I mean, I think Josh Allen, he is getting drafted as the number 1 quarterback this year. I'm excited to see him. He's my favorite guy to watch this year. So to me, he's going to be my prom king.
Off of that, I do want to ask Josh Allen, obviously the number 1 quarterback going into the year. Very tall, very handsome, great prom king choice.
Mm-hmm.
He's going at around pick 24 in ESPN drafts right now.
Yeah.
How early are you willing to take Josh Allen? Because that's the thing with him. I do think he fits the definition of a prom king because he is that stud that everyone knows is a stud going into the year. The only conversation you have to have with those guys is the draft capital that you're putting in worth it when you can get Justin Herbert at pick 39. So that's like 15 picks later. You can get Lamar Jackson 30 picks later. You can get Kyler almost 40. So that's really the trade-off with Josh Allen. Do you think he's worth that price tag?
I would say Josh Allen getting picked at the beginning of the 3rd round when you have to wait. If you got first pick, your team would look like, Jonathan Taylor, CMC, something like that. You pick up a nice either secondary running back like a Nick Chubb, a David, or you pick up a nice wide receiver, or you pick up a Mark Andrews, a Travis Kelce, and then you finish it off with the start of the 3rd with Josh Allen. I mean, you could theoretically have 3 positions getting the number 1 guy at each position going into the 3rd, and then you get a pick at the end of the 4th, 24 picks later. I think it's a fine trade-off. If you're going to pick in the top 3, I think going with a Josh Allen or a Patty or a Justin, then it's fine. I mean, there's pros and cons to each. I mean, there's quarterback depth this year. I mean, Russell Wilson's going like average is like 76. Tom's going 88. Everyone knows Tom's going to finish in the top 10. He has every year basically. And he's going late 7th round. I mean, there's a payoff for each person, but I think having the opportunity to pick up the number 1 guy at 3 different positions in the first 3 rounds is just going to be huge. I mean, that's just my way of looking at it.
Yeah, fair. I mean, when you get that advantage in a certain position, I mean, we see it with Travis Kelce a lot. You're never, no matter like who you have on your team, you always see Travis Kelce on the other side and you're like, oh shit, like my guy's not going to live up to that. And excuse my profanity there. My prom king is going to be Stefon Diggs. Kind of in the same vein. I think that he's going as a wide receiver 5. I mean, I guess I'm not saying that he's going to perform much better than that, but I think he's a top of the line guy. He's going to get targets in this offense because he always does. And you just had 2 of your top 4, maybe 2 of your top 3 receivers leave from last year. Gabe Davis, a lot of expectations for him. We'll get into that. But I think Stefon Diggs is in a really good situation. A lot of people talking about this is the year that Josh Allen is going to get that MVP. This is the year a lot of the people expect the Bills to get over the hump. I don't think they're going to do it through running the ball because they never have. I think it's going to be a lot of Stefon Diggs. The only thing that worries me is I think a lot of people think it's going to be a lot of Stefon Diggs, and that's going to attract some tough matchups.
Right.
But I think what other option do they have? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I like how we all had different definitions of it.
Yeah, a little bit. Maybe a bit of a tease. Speaking of tease, who's the biggest flirt?
Tyreek Hill.
Okay, Tyreek.
Starting it off, Toady.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill. I mean, come on. I think Tyreek Hill has the name value from being on the Chiefs, but you're going from Patrick Mahomes, having a Travis Kelce to help balance things out. You got CAH, it's not the flashiest guy, but he gets the job. Gets the job done, Now you're going to Miami. You're going to Tua. I think we can all unanimously agree Tua is not Patty Mahomes. Quite literally in the name, also quite literally in the talent. So I think
It's more accurate, though.
could be, but I don't see him laying sideways on like a surfboard in midair, throwing the ball quite like Patty Mahomes. So to me, I think the biggest flirt this year has to be it's got to be Tyreek.
So you're staying away from him?
I'm staying away from him if I got to pull up where he's getting drafted.
Would you rather have? I have it up. Would you rather have Tyreek Hill or Mike Evans?
Mike Evans just based off the ADP. I can give Mike Evans a round later. I like that.
You can.
It
You can
says
get him six picks later. Yeah, I guess.
This says Tyreek on the one I'm looking at. Tyreek going 19th average. Mike Evans going 28th average.
Okay, I have not that far off. I have 18 and 24 on mine. So this person's going right around the same point. Tyreek or CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
I agree with that. I would rather, I think, have Tyreek than Mike Evans. I mean, it's close. That's the tier break for me from the tier 2 to the tier 3. I get the concerns with Tyreek, and we will get to those even more later.
Tyreek and Mike Evans are both in my tier 3 list. So, I mean, it's close, but Tyreek's getting drafted 7, 8 picks, 9 picks above Mike Evans. I like being able to wait. Like, I don't feel like I want to reach on Tyreek this year.
Yeah, and you're probably going to have to do that for the name alone. Like, that's something, too. I think a lot of people will be overvaluing Tyreek because of who he is.
Exactly.
And just the name and the reputation of what he's been able to do in Kansas City. My biggest flirt is going to be a running back who I may be stalling because I forgot the name of Breece Hall. Breece Hall is going to be my biggest flirt. I've met him a couple times. He just had a way about him. He's very, very conversational. Just has that personality that kind of brings you in. But I never know where he's taking me. I don't know. Not in like a creepy kind of way. But I just don't know. I feel like he's flirting just to flirt with me. And you know me. I'm a romantic.
Exactly.
I just like to know my value in his heart.
I feel that. There's a lot of question marks with that Jets offense, so I'm with you.
Going into the season, it's just like, what role is he going to have? Like, he's going to obviously play a part in the offense. But the thing is, like, he got taken only a few picks ahead of Ken Walker.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of hype is going towards Breece Hall taking over this offense. No hype is going towards Ken Walker. So maybe it's just my love of Ken Walker that's upsetting me a bit, that Breece Hall is flirting with me, flirting with fantasy relevance, flirting with, like, some people a top 20 season. He's going as RB20 right now. And he's on a Jets offense that hasn't produced a relevant fantasy running back in forever. He still has Michael Carter that's probably going to take third downs. I think he's going to be fine. Like, I want to see where he is in my ranks. I don't think he's too far out of the top 24, if at all. He's 25. But there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of appeal of a guy that looks like he was brought in to take a starting job on maybe a team that's looking to take the next step. But there's a lot of question marks too that I'm pretty worried about for Breece Hall.
With you. A lot of question marks.
Yeah, I think mine is Gabe Davis. I know we kind of talked about him before, but I mean, I feel like Gabe Davis. I mean, you look at his ADP, and he's getting drafted ahead of players who have performed year over year when healthy, such as Michael Thomas, who I think's ADP will go up as training camp goes on. Adam Thielen. Yeah, Juju Smith-Schuster, like, you say what you want. I drove him out of Pittsburgh, but
Amen.
you
Do
put
we
him
want to
on.
explain that story?
It can be explained in the AFC North
Okay.
conversation, but
We'll tease.
I think he's a wide receiver 2 in the offense, getting drafted in what appears to be like the 5th, 6th round. And I mean, at his current ADP, I'm certainly not taking him, despite his incredible performance in the playoffs, which unfortunately was not enough. I think Gabe Davis for that
Why'd you
reason.
have to rub that in? That was a little dig.
I mean,
that seemed unnecessary.
but yeah, Gabe Davis is he's gonna be my biggest flirt this year. So in the
I feel
AFC
that.
East.
Yeah.
Why'd you just have to, again, excuse my, I'm not going to use profanity. I'm going to say, why'd you have to poop all over Kansas City fans there?
Well, some people kind of they just gotta do what they gotta do.
Chiefs won the game.
Amen.
Or not Kansas City fan, Buffalo fans, excuse me.
They didn't get a chance.
I don't know. Seems like you were trying to rub something in there. A little pent up aggression. I'm going to start with my drama queen because it's the same player, and I'm going to go with Gabe Davis. I think there's the potential for some highs, and we saw that obviously in that game, but we also saw it with other Bills receivers. Emmanuel Sanders out the gate. I remember Cody had him, was very high on him. I don't know about on the show, but at least like privately in our leagues. But we saw guys get their weeks, like Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley. They like Isaiah McKenzie a lot too. Like, I don't know that it's going to be consistent with Gabe Davis. And at his current ADP, wide receiver 28, you're taking him right outside of wide receiver 2 territory. That's kind of what his value looks like right now. You're banking on that offense and consistency, and I haven't seen consistency from a second receiving option there,
Right.
outside of like maybe Dawson Knox. Like, I think that's
Stretch.
a little bit of like the closest that you can get. So
I would say more consistent in that offense last year was Cole Beasley in the slot. I mean,
out the gates, Cole Beasley was playing tough though, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think
beginning of the year, Cole Beasley was nice, but year went on, Cole Beasley was not so nice.
Yeah, I feel like Gabe Davis's stat lines were like 3 for 80.
You're gonna bank on that big play.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm with Kondo on Gabe Davis, so I'm just gonna piggyback off him as drama queen. I mean, if you're gonna be ahead of my boy Adam Thielen, I mean, the grit Adam Thielen possesses, unmatched. I mean, there ain't nothing. Not just because I'm a Vikings fan, has nothing to do with it. Hunter Renfro's also there. I mean, the grit Hunter Renfro had. I mean, Hunter Renfro was killing it last year. Both these guys out there doing the dirty work, doing God's work, really.
I didn't know God did dirty work.
I mean, God made dirt. Dirt don't hurt. John 3:16. So I'm with you. Gabe Davis getting picked as 28th overall. wide receiver. That's where it's kind of going.
Rent
get
is
it.
too damn high, as the kids say.
Yeah, I think there's better options. You ain't got to be taking them 78th in the draft here. I mean, that's what, early 7th round, late 6th. I think that's too early for Gabe Davis to be going.
Yep.
Especially over like Michael Thomas. Juju is going to be the number 1 wide receiver option. I mean, I think there's better guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, drama queen is going to be Tyreek Hill. It's only training camp. Of course, every quarterback's going to look good with no pads on, throwing deep. When the opposite side's not really coming after you. But we'll see what happens come game time. But we know Tyreek is a target monster. At least he has been throughout his whole career. So it's really going to be interesting to see if Tua can deliver on the field, and how those targets, how that target competition works in that offense. I mean, yeah, Jaylen Waddle last year, who for the Dolphins, I mean, he's still there. Claims he's the fastest player on the team.
Could be.
So, and then you have a bunch of other pass catchers like in the backfield, Chase Edmonds. He's gonna get some targets. Mike Gesicki. Who they have Cedric Wilson there too. So just there's a lot of targets to be going around, and I don't think if Tua can deliver, he's gonna have to throw at least 35, 40 pass attempts a game to feed all those hungry mouths. So I think biggest drama queen here is Tyreek for me.
Yeah. And we're going to talk more about Tyreek and Waddle in our fantasy face-offs segment later. Last one is Class Clown. I'm just going to give it to Cody. I want him to hang that up on his green screen behind him. And
I wish I could.
we're gonna move on to the next thing. Jets receiver roulette. We didn't talk much about the Jets receivers yet, but each of us have a Jets receiver that we're leaning towards. Kenny, I'm not sure that you're leaning towards yours. You were very quick. So when we were doing this, we weren't sure if we were going to just randomly take a receiver or if we each had a different receiver that we believe in the offense and wanted to advocate for. So I asked, the first response was Kenny's, almost immediate. He may have almost knew what I was going to ask because right away, I think you said, typing, new contract Braxton Berrios.
Gotta be. Jamison Crowder's gone. There's no competition for targets in the slot. Zach Wilson needs that guy to go short, and Braxton Berrios can deliver.
I'm going to say there is competition in the slot because I know he doesn't play in the slot all the time, but I feel like Elijah Moore does play in the slot. He can play in the slot, and I mean, they're going to use Braxton Berrios. I just don't know how much. You look at Corey Davis, who they paid a ton. They paid Braxton Berrios. I don't think they gave him like as much money that he's a guy that needs to be on the field all the time. Elijah Moore, they're going to give reps to, and obviously Garrett Wilson. You look at the rapport that Garrett Wilson had no rapport with anybody in the NFL because he didn't play with them. But you look at the rapport that he had with Zach Wilson last year when he was on the field. So going through I'll go just through week 1. 4 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets, 2 targets got hurt. 6 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets, 6 targets. To end the year, 11 targets, 8 targets, 12 targets, and had 30 points, 9 points, and 21 points in those games. This offense is only getting better. I think that it probably like helps that he doesn't have, I would say, like the best rapport with like the guy that Cody's going to talk about that I think has the second best chance here. But yeah, I think Elijah Moore has a connection with Zach Wilson and will expound upon that this season.
You could
Right.
you could kind of make a comparison as to, if we think to like Cincinnati last year, they drafted T. Higgins 2 years ago. They had Tyler Boyd. They drafted Jamar Chase. I mean, with the Jets this year, it's kind of a similar situation. I wouldn't say as, I don't think the talent is as theirs with Cincinnati, but I mean, they drafted Elijah Moore last year. They had, I mean, I don't know how long they've had Braxton Berrios, but they bring in this other big receiver, Garrett Wilson. So it'll be interesting to see like what the dynamic is, and who gets targets out the gate. So.
Right. I mean, Garrett Wilson's going to get the targets. I mean, I'll answer that right now. So, Garrett Wilson is average draft positions 51 or 50, depending if you're half point or full point PPR right now. So he's not a guy you have to reach for, which one is super, appealing when you can get the number one wide receiver in the Jets Bulldogs offense out here. Number two, as Kenny just said, this is Cincinnati 2.0. They got a better quarterback. They got more dogs, quite literally spoken by their quarterback here. And Garrett Wilson was the most recent drafted wide receiver. He was the consensus number one, but was picked number two. I love this guy. He's big, strong. He's going to be Jamar Chase 2.0.
How big is he? Can you give me some measurables?
Have you ever seen Superman in person? Go shake Garrett Wilson's hand, and that answers your question right there.
All right.
There ain't nothing else. I mean, I do think that the Jets are going to pass it more. I don't think Breece Hall is going to be the scariest running back out there. I think the Jets are going to have to play from behind. So I think that it's not going to be shocking to us if Zach Wilson throws the ball 30, 35 times a game. And I think it'd be crazy to say that Braxton Berrios, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis are all getting, 10 targets each here. I think they have to like kind of spread them out. I think Garrett Wilson's going to make do with what he can do. I mean, I believe in college his average like depth of reception was 3 yards when he played on the outside, but then he was breaking it for much more than that. He has explosive speed. I love him. Give me Garrett Wilson at the end of the draft as a flyer guy. I like him.
Yeah. The only thing I want to piggyback, because we don't know with any of these guys. Apparently, the one thing that we do know is that Corey Davis is dead. RIP to him. Apologies to our condolences.
I don't think he's even going up the draft board in 12-man leagues.
No, probably not.
No.
Is Braxton Berrios?
I don't think I think Elijah Moore might be the only one going off.
No, so I was going to say that you're not really investing a lot in any of these guys. They're late round picks. It would be like a 9th, 10th round pick for Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore. Garrett Wilson is the wide receiver 40, and Elijah Moore is wide receiver 41 in ESPN ADP. So it's not like a huge investment. I say around the guys that are going that low, there's some that I would take ahead of them. Like Rashad Bateman's going wide receiver 38. I would take him ahead of either of the Jets guys. But you look below them, Treylon Burks is an interesting one. Kadarius Toney is an interesting one. Allen Lazard, Robert Woods. There's some names there that you could take ahead, but then there's some judgment calls because like we don't know what's going on in this offense. And I think that's a concern, but that's also an exciting thing. That's something that's like the opportunity for these guys, especially with Elijah Moore, just seeing what he did last year is very intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Going into that. Oh, sorry, Kenny.
And even with like, various quarterback play. I mean, who they have Greg White and Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson all play games there. So he gave you consistency and he gave you good play when he played.
True.
So
Yeah. I'm more intrigued by the Jets are the next Bengals. I think that was the thing that really stood out to me of that conversation.
Right.
they
Well,
did grab
Kenny
they
did
did
state it, and I just backed Kenny up. So
they did grab CJ Uzomah. So
So that was a Kinney take.
it was a Kenny take.
That's coming out hot. First episode,
Mm-hmm. Drop it like it's hot.
you were frozen. You thought out, and then you say that the Jets are the Cincinnati Bengals. I like it. I like the aggressiveness in the first episode.
Listen, who won the matchup between Jets and Bengals last year?
It's true. I think it was pretty
gotta think.
handily too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was it close?
It might have been. I don't know. Gabe Davis versus these are fantasy face-offs, I should say. And I think this is the one consistent thing we're going to be doing throughout every show. Outside of that, trying to spice it up. But first fantasy face-off is Gabe Davis versus any Jets wide receiver. Gabe Davis going as the wide receiver 28, as we've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Jets wide receivers going wide receiver 40 or below. And I think I would rather have Jets receiver of your choice. We know who mine is. Over Gabe Davis. And I don't think there's going to be much disagreement here, which is wild based on ADP.
Yeah, I mean, based off ADP, I'm not. If Gabe Davis falls to where it's quite literally Gabe Davis, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, all on the board in like this 8th, 9th round, I feel like that would be a tough decision because then I might go Gabe Davis, but I want to go Gabe Davis at like round 5, round 6, kind of where he's going right now. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take any Jets wide receiver. I mean, probably, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson in this situation. Just because, we know they are playmakers. And our targets are going to go to them in that offense. I think with Gabe Davis in the Buffalo offense, you kind of just, again, like you said, consistency is not there. At least it hasn't been in past. I think another conversation like up for debate in future shows is who would you rather prefer in like their respective offenses, Gabe Davis or Mike Williams? Kind of play the same kind of role, bigger wide receiver. So,
but we've seen Mike Williams do it, is my thing.
Yeah, I'm with
that's the argument there. Like, we've never seen a Bills wide receiver do what Mike Williams did last year. We may have seen them do what Mike Davis can do.
Mike Davis.
Yeah, I almost said Mike Davis, so I brought Mike Davis into the equation.
All right. I mean, he can produce when he's out there.
Next question. Damien Harris or Devin Singletary? I think Cody should go first.
I'm back. Sorry, I turned off the AC. It was getting really loud and obnoxious in my ear.
Couldn't hear it here.
You couldn't? Oh,
perfect.
Your obnoxiousity was covering it all up. I think that's what I'm not saying that. I think that's what Kenny was saying.
Perfect. I think I want Damien Harris, but I also I love Devin Singletary, so it hurts me.
You love Devin Singletary?
Yeah, I mean, sorry to my wife, but he's a stud. Also, he's going like 10 spots after him, and I think he's going to have a better year. So I like the discount. I like the discount on Damien Harris, and I just think I think the Pats are going to run the ball more than the Bills will. So I think he's just going to get some manufactured touches that way, whereas Devin Singletary, won't necessarily be getting all the manufactured touches for him. So give me Damien Harris.
I think I'm gonna go Devin Singletary here. I think the role is more established. Zach Moss is kind of fading out. The Bills drafted James Cook, who we don't know what his role could be. Devin Singletary and James Cook have the potential to pack, like a 1-2 punch similar to Mark Ingram and Kamara. What was that, 2017, 2018?
Yeah, something.
So I think I'm just going based on like strength of offense here.
Right.
And I think Devin Singletary like will get those touches, when they matter. We've heard reports out of training camp early that Ramondre Stevenson, is going to be a factor this year, more of a factor than last year. So I think just given what we know now, Devin Singletary's role like is established, and they did start to feed him the ball later down the line last season. So I'm going to take
especially in
that.
the playoffs too.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, the man is the motor, so you can't deny that.
I do have one thing to rebuttal here, Kenny. Damien Harris going after Devin Singletary in this year's draft. Damien Harris finished higher than Devin Singletary by 40 something points last year. So I'm still with Damien. He played less games and he had more points. I mean, you kind of want the guy who can get you them big bucket points, So for me, that's why I'm going with him. More points, less games, later ADP. You can pick him up around after him. I just love it. I think it's a lot of good things coming from Damien here.
Yep. I will say to support both sides. I mean, Damien Harris does have a quarterback who doesn't run as much as Josh Allen. So those touches aren't getting taken away. With that, there's not as much rushing upside with Mac Jones as there is with Josh Allen. So I think
14 more rushes for Damien Harris.
In 2 less games, right?
Yeah, games 15 for Damien Harris, 17 for Devin Singletary. Devin did only start 16 of them, though. So one more game starting. 188 attempts on the ground for Devin and 202 for Damien.
Yeah.
So I think the Bills are going to be up more than the Pats, but I think the Pats are going to manufacture touches again for Damien Harris.
I have these guys back to back, so
yeah.
I also think they're in the same tier. Yeah, they're both my like 2 top of the line tier 6 guys as of right now. I don't think it's a big discrepancy. I think it depends on what you're going for late in your drafts. I think if you're going for the upside, you want Devin Singletary. He's on better offense. We saw it late in the year when they gave him touches. He performed pretty well. Like he was probably a decent part of fantasy like playoff rosters. He had 15 points, 16 and a half, 19, and then 23. Also had 25 in week 18. And then, like we said, he kind of built on that to where he was the guy in the playoffs. I think Damien Harris is just always kind of slept on. I get the Ramondre concerns, but Damien Harris just kind of goes out there and runs the ball well, like week in and week out, and will get you like 10 points. So if you want to go like high floor, I think Damien Harris is your guy. If you want to take a bigger swing, and it probably depends on the roster that you already constructed up to that point, I would go with Devin Singletary. On to our last.
I do have one thing to say, Kondo.
Okay.
I looked up average fantasy points from the winning team last year. 92 fantasy points was what your team had to have to, on average, win every game. Not in our league, because for some reason our league we score 300 fucking points, but for average leagues it was 92. Both of these guys, you need each position to get you 10.2 fantasy points to hit your 92 points.
I want to cut you off just for a second. This sounds like it's going to be a heck of a stat. It
No,
sounds like
I'm
you
just saying,
took
like,
this
how
is some real math is coming right now.
it was a lot of math I did, but I wanted to learn. I wanted to know just for like drafting purposes. I think it helps. Like
Yeah.
if you're going with a guy who is boom or bust, like he'll get you either 3 points or 30 points, but there's not much of an in between. Then you need a guy who is average is about 10 to 15, but he's never going to really get you much more, just to kind of balance out the team.
Need
Devin
a guy with a higher
Singletary.
floor.
Yeah, you need a guy with a higher floor to compensate for the guy who has that high boom or bust. That's why I was kind of looking at it. But Damien gets you 12.8 and Devin gets you 9.3. I mean, for me, that's another reason I went with Damien, just because his floor I think is higher, whereas Devin could be a little bit more explosive. Get you them boom or bust, because he is more if you're in a full point league, go with Devin Singletary. He had 50 targets last year. That's only going to go up. Damien Harris had 21 or something like that. Like it was pretty low.
Yeah, it's not necessarily his role, but both, like, I say similar level, just depending on what kind of league you play in and what you need with your roster. That math segment lived up to the hype for me, and I'm looking
was
forward
awesome.
to Math Cody for the rest of the year. I want you to really bring the analytics for the show.
God.
I think I was more of a numbers guy last year, and
Mhm.
I'm gonna veer from that a little bit.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna be a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more of an eye test kind of
Nice.
guy this year.
Glad to hear.
Eye candy.
Little eye candy.
Wow.
That goes back to never mind. Tyreek Hill versus Jaylen Waddle. This one, I don't think there's a crazy debate. I think a lot of people, even if you want to say Jaylen Waddle, which is my case, I want to say Jaylen Waddle here.
Mhm.
But I also feel obligated to say Tyreek Hill.
Mhm.
If you look at some of those offenses, like the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins offense is kind of what sparked this for me. You see a guy who is a really good receiver, and I guess it's a little bit switched because Jamar Chase came in later than T. Higgins, but you see a guy who's a really good receiver, and then you see a guy who's also a really good receiver who the quarterback has a prior connection with.
Right.
And they kind of go to that guy that they have a little bit of that, like that special chemistry with. And I think that could be what Jaylen Waddle has with Tua. The question also is, like, how much stock do you want to put into this offense?
Right.
Can Tua really deliver? Also, not even about Tua. Is this an offense where two wide receivers are going to prosper? Because you look at San Francisco, they were a team that ran the ball a lot. And that kind of stinks for Miami. Something we haven't mentioned yet that we probably should is that backfield. But I imagine we'll talk about that in our running back rankings show, so we can leave that for then. Yeah, I'm kind of worried about both of these guys. And I could see something happening where Jaylen Waddle ends of the season with like more targets than Tyreek, and Tyreek's used as like a deep threat / runner out of the backfield.
Right.
I think
yeah. You up, Kenny?
I think I would agree with that too. I think I'm going to take, if I, had the opportunity and come the draft, I would think I would rather take Jaylen Waddle over Tyreek Hill. I don't think Tyreek Hill. I don't think his ADP, especially in a new offense. I don't. I think he's still projected like going like late first round, early second round. Whereas with a guy like Jaylen Waddle, you can get end of the third, maybe top of the fourth round. I just think his role again is established in the offense. Like him and Tua clearly had a connection last year. Fending off targets from Devontae Parker and like others. And I mean Jaylen Waddle just became like the main man.
Fantasy
like
superstar. Like he was a league winner also at the end of the
he
year.
was. So I think Jaylen Waddle again has a higher floor than Tyreek Hill, especially in this offense, because we've only seen Tyreek Hill really, either catch the deep ball, or kind of just catch those, like those quick routes. Like one specific one that pops out to me is like Tyreek Hill in the playoffs last year against Buffalo. Just catching those like mid 20 25 yard balls and just rips one off. But
Mhm.
I feel like Jaylen Waddle just has that 5 to 10 yard catch radius.
It's almost like an Edelman with a high ceiling because he's explosive enough to like break anything off. But he's going to get, or you knew last year anyway, that he was going to get the high target volume. It's a really, I mean, why Kansas City? Why did you have to complicate things for us?
That's
Wow,
true.
it's a very selfish act on Kansas City's part to trade Tyreek Hill to really just derail any expectations that we have of Jaylen Waddle.
True. For me, if I don't like where Tyreek's getting drafted at like mid-second round, but if Tyreek Hill is there in the third, I'm taking Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, I think the ADP
Tyreek-
is baked
Definitely.
into this
I think-
question.
Yeah, I mean, he's going as wide receiver 8 or overall 18th guy off the board. I think that's a little juicy. But looking at like the Jaylen Waddle, granted, 1 year, but if I just look at the 2021 stats for both these guys, their average depth of target was 7.8 for Tyreek, 7.2 for Jaylen Waddle. But Jaylen Waddle got you 9.8 yards of reception. Tyreek got you 11.2. So Tyreek was a little bit better at getting, like half or double the amount of yards after the catch as Jaylen. So if they're going to get the similar amount of catches, 2 more yards every catch adds up throughout the season. You're going to get a little bit better. I like Tyreek more than Jaylen, but I don't like Tyreek where he's getting drafted. But if I'm sitting in the third, I'm taking Tyreek. But if I'm picking in the second round, I'm not picking up Tyreek.
Are you investing in Waddle at all? Because it sounds like you're kind of out on Tyreek for the price.
Right.
And you like Tyreek still enough that it dampers what you think of Waddle. Again, thanks Kansas City for ruining this for fantasy managers.
I love Jaylen Waddle. Tyreek Hill's amazing. I think both those guys respectively are fantastic. We have yet to see Tua, small sample size, but we haven't seen Tua have two very viable fantasy options. So I just think, like, to expect Jaylen Waddle. I mean, Tyreek was what, 9th last year. Jaylen Waddle was 6th in terms of like overall fantasy or whatever. I don't think that's going to continue. I think one of them will hit the top 12 and the other guy will hit top 25.
Which is where they're going.
Yeah, I'm not confident. Like, well, Kenny said, there's a rapport already with Jaylen Waddle and Tua that Tyreek doesn't have. So I can't say confidently, oh yeah, Tua and Jaylen, they're going to be the guy in the top fucking 10, and Tyreek's going to be 25th, but I also can't confidently say it's going to be reversed. So to me, I'm staying away from both just because of the uncertainty from Tua more so than these two guys' talent.
Yeah, I don't think both guys will be even that high. I mean, guys are both, both in top of their offense last year. So I mean, it's pretty hard to produce like, two top 20 receivers on the same team. I think like the one exception could potentially be like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. And I would take Justin Herbert over Tua in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
I just think the floor is higher with that offense. But
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm with you. I think Chargers have two better wide receivers that could finish in higher. I think Cincinnati has two wide receivers that could finish higher together. I'm with you. It's not the offense I want to take the risk on at the ADP, but if it falls, I'm gonna take it. Like at a certain point, you have to.
These guys definitely hold big names, and I'm sure, I'm sure if you wanted to ship them out and they were on your team, I'm sure you could get, good key players back in return, especially ahead of the season. So
yeah.
Quick last question, just so we can say that we talked about it. I don't need an explanation. I just need to know who's the fantasy running back that you're picking for the Miami Dolphins.
Chase Edmonds.
None from Toady.
None.
I'm taking a late round flyer on Raheem Mostert.
Okay, fair. I think Tyreek's going to get some of those touch passes at the backfield, and I think having two guys who operate great within the 5 to 10 yard range, I don't think the running backs are going to be doing all that much. So to me, I'm staying away.
Not taking Myles Gaskin. I think we could say who was more dead, Corey Davis or Myles Gaskin?
Corey Davis is more dead. I mean, Garrett Wilson's out here he's a dog. I mean, dogs eat dogs. It's a dog eat dog world. I don't think anyone's ever referred
to from that definition, then Corey Davis is also a dog.
Right, but he's a dog that got eaten. So
he got paid though.
Hey, I paid, for Chinese food. Doesn't mean I'm going to put that above my cat. Okay.
All right. I think we got to move on.
On that note, I think that means we are done with our first episode of the new season. We will be back tomorrow with our live episode breaking down the AFC South. New episodes all week. Kenny, how was your first show?
Not bad. We have good rapport.
That's debatable. We will see you all tomorrow.